and dispersed into all languages on the world, everybody that reads it thinks it's talking about them. And it's not talking about them. It's talking about the people of the Bible who've been scattered in their lands, conquered, and now speak the languages of those strangers, of those Gentiles, of those nations. That's what this book is. So, you there, brother?
Yep.
Read St. John chapter 3, verse 16 again.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life.
Now listen to this. Whosoever should not, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So we want to show you, we got to be technical and go and break down who the whosoever is referred to, or who the whosoever is that is being addressed, okay? So we're going to start off with, matter of fact, we're going to show you this is what we're going to do. Now we're going to go to Matthew chapter 13 and verse 52, is it? Matthew chapter 13 and verse 52. Because if you notice, what we've been doing is we've been taking this gospel and then we've been going to the Old Testament to show you what was established then. And that's why most of the things that you read in the New Testament is referring to something that was written in the Old Testament. And the fact that it's in the New Testament is a statement that's saying those agreements, those covenants, those prophecies established in the Old Testament, all those found in the New Testament, still stand. They're still what the Most High had planned for his people. So let's read that.
Matthew chapter 13.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 52.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Then said he unto them, therefore every scribe which is instructed unto the kingdom of heaven.
This is Christ speaking in his parables. He said every scribe that is instructed in the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is literally talking about the reestablishing, the rejuvenation, the resurrection of the nation of Israel. So he said every scribe that's instructed. In other words, if you've been taught about the kingdom of heaven, if you've been taught this word of the Most High, it tells you what it is that you are using. Read it again from the top.
Then said he unto them, therefore every scribe which is instructed unto the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder.
He's compared to a person that's teaching this book. A scribe was the people who was in charge of deciphering the scriptures and being able to determine things that were taking place in their time. Could they be found in the scriptures? If there was people rising up, calling themselves or claiming to be the fulfillment of certain prophecies, the scribes were the ones who could find those prophecies and begin to measure that person or those events by the prophecy, to determine if the person or the event was authentic and could be received for what was prophesied beforehand. That was the purpose. So it says a scribe, everybody that does this, today is those of us who teach the Bible. Those of us who teach the word of the Most High, we have to be able to do what? It says we are compared to a man that is a householder. Go ahead.
Which bringeth forth out of his treasure.
Which bringeth forth out of his treasure what?
Things new and old.
Things new and old. The treasure that it's talking about is talking about the word of the Most High. It tells you that. The word, the book of the Proverbs tells you that wisdom is greater than gold. It's greater than precious jewels. So when it says that scribe that is instructed in the kingdom of heaven, it says it's compared to a householder that bringeth out of his treasure things old and things new. Read it again.
Then said he unto them, therefore every scribe which is instructed unto the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which bringeth forth out of his treasure things new and old.
In other words, the treasure is the Bible. So what we do is we bring things out of it new and old. In other words, we're bringing information out of the New Testament and we're bringing information out of the Old Testament. The Old Testament is the foundation upon which the New Testament was written. It couldn't be a New Testament without the Old Testament. That's what makes the New Testament new. It's something added to it. It's been improved. Now, we're going to show you that. So the brother wrote, for whosoever believeth in him should not perish. So what we got to do is we got to go to the Old Testament and find out who the whosoever is referring to. So the first place we're going to go is the book of Joel. We're going to go to Joel chapter 2, and we're going to start at verse 28. We're going to read from verse 28 all the way down to verse 30, which is the end of the actual chapter. Verses 28 to verse 32. Then we're going to go to the book of Acts chapter 2 and show you how that prophecy was fulfilled in part. It was fulfilled, and then it was reiterated that this was something that was spoken of concerning this particular book. So we're in Joel chapter 2 and verse 28. Go ahead, brother.
And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy.
In other words, the Most High was going to be waking us up, and we was going, when it said prophesying, that's what we're doing now. We're literally teaching people out of the Bible the things that they can expect for sure to happen in the earth. Go ahead.
Your old men shall dream
It
dreams.
says the old men are going to be dreaming dreams. Continue.
Your young men shall see visions.
Go ahead.
And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit.
We're the servants and the handmaids. The servant is the slave, and the handmaid is the female servant. Okay? Go ahead.
Verse 29. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit. And I will show wonders in the heavens.
Continue. Now these are the wonders that you're going to be seeing. When he says in the heaven, it's talking about in the kingdoms. That's another topic itself. Eventually we're going to send you a disc and do a breakdown on the term heaven and heavens and the various uses and applications that it has. So it says he's going to show his wonders in heaven. Read it again.
And I will show wonders in the heavens.
Meaning in the kingdoms. You're going to see this. Go ahead.
And in the earth, blood and fire.
Now where's the blood and fire? In the heaven, you don't see no blood and fire dripping from the heavens. In other words, the kingdoms are talking about, the blood and fire is talking about wars that's taking place in the earth. In other words, and it's going to tell you, columns of smoke, read on down.
And pillars of smoke.
And pillars of smoke, like a tube. In other words, that's from bombs being dropped on Iraq. It's from bombs being dropped in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, and in various places in the world. That's what it's talking about. When it said the wars in Matthew chapter 24 and rumors of wars, right now we're in wars. The world is in a war. You got the United States occupying Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and then when it said rumors of wars, they're beating the war drums and creating the circumstance for Iran. Right now, Iran is just a rumor of war. You got all that political unrest that's been heightening behind the recent elections. American CIA intervention, of course. So that's what it's saying. In other words, pillars of smoke, blood, fire. It's talking about killing from all the dang bombs and the wars. Read on down.
Verse 31. The sun shall be turned into darkness.
You know how the sun gets turned into darkness? If you've ever seen any of those CNN clips or those newsreels or even photos of the bombardment that was taking place in Iraq during the first Gulf War. All the oil fields that were set on fire. You had brothers that's in this war with us that fought in that war, where you couldn't see anything in the middle of the day because of the smoke from all the things burning, from bombardments, from oil wells being set on fire. So the Lord said, the sun shall be darkened. Go ahead.
The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood.
Go ahead.
Before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come.
All of this was going to take place before the great and terrible day of the Lord. When it said before the great and terrible day of the Lord, it's talking about before Christ's return. And the reason it's referred to as great and terrible, because it tells you in Revelation chapter 19 that he's coming back, and in righteousness does he judge and make war. He's coming back to make war. That's why it's called the great and terrible day. Because it's going to be damn great and terrible. Go ahead.
Verse 32. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall...
Listen, and it shall come to pass, this is the prophecy that was reiterated in John 3:16, and it shall come to pass
that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered.
Listen, so what he did was he set up the the circumstance behind which we won't need to be delivered. In other words, all the killing, all the blood, all the war. So he says, in the midst of all that, it's going to come to pass that whoever call on the name of the Lord shall what?
Shall be delivered.
Shall be delivered. Now it's going to tell you of who. Go ahead.
For in Mount Zion,
For in what?
Mount Zion,
For in where?
Mount Zion,
For in Mount Zion, go ahead.